Okay, in this video, I want to show you how to run descriptive statistics. I'm also going to show you how to do a pivot table and insert a formula that will change these yes/no answers into numerical answers. All right, so let's get started. We'll first start with a descriptive statistics table. Specifically, I'm looking for age, value of investments, number of transactions, and household items. So those are the columns that I'll run a descriptive statistics table for. So let's get started. Data, data analysis. Find the descriptive statistics option here and hit OK. Now to put your range in, you simply come in and tell it which column. So you can click at the top here. So I want column A. Here we have it. We'll have to do each one of these separate. Make sure you've clicked labels in first row. You do want this to pop up in a new worksheet. We also want summary statistics and the confidence level set at 95%. So check those two boxes and hit OK. And it will pop that into a new spreadsheet for you. And there's your descriptive statistics table for age. Now, as you look at this, you'll see mean, standard error, median mode, standard deviation, your kurtosis and skewness, the range that you have, the sum of all of them, which doesn't make any sense here, and how many people you have in the study. So 410, and then your confidence level. Now you can change the number of, let's see, here we go, number of decimals by doing this, increase or decrease. So I like to decrease decimals, especially when we're looking at statistics. We don't always need so many. Sometimes we can go with 2. It just kind of cleans up your spreadsheet a little bit. So feel free to do that as well. All right, so that's age. Let's take a look at the value of investments. Now, same thing, we're going to go to data, data analysis. Descriptive statistics should already be highlighted because you just did it. The only thing we need to change here is your input range. So we're going to do column D now. Everything else should still be checked from the last time, which is the labels in first row, new worksheet, summary statistics, and confidence level set at 95% and hit OK. And we can make that a little bit bigger. There we go. And same thing to change your decimal place. Just come up here and move that so you have 2 digits after the decimal. All right, so that's value of investments. Now let's do number of transactions. So data, data analysis, descriptive statistics. Only thing we should have to change is where our input range is. So let's change that to E. The labels, the new worksheet, the summary, and the confidence should still be checked and hit OK. And let's make that a little bigger too. All right. Same process here with reducing the number after the decimal. We'll get that to a better look. Depending on your statistics, sometimes you want 2 digits after the decimal, sometimes you want 3. In this case, 2 is fine. And then the household income, we'll do that now with data, data analysis, descriptive statistics. We'll change our input from column E now to column G and hit OK. Alrighty, and there we have our descriptive statistics tables formatted nicely. Now just to make sure, we have one for age, value of investments, number of transactions, and household income. Specifically for this exercise, we were looking for mean, standard error of mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, and skewness variables. And that should help you answer questions 1 and 2. Now, to move on to question 3, what we want to do is actually add a couple of new categories. So we're looking at the column broadband access, Let's color that one. And children. So you'll see we're going to change these yes, no answers to zeros and ones. All right, so we'll call this one broadband and we'll call this one children. We're just going to create a new column for each. All right, so in broadband, what we're saying is equals if, and we want to know specifically if this column right here in F2, so go back here, let's start over. If we want a parentheses, F2 equals yes, tell it to become 1. If it's a no, it will become 0 and end parentheses. All right, so we'll carry that down with all of our data. And just to double check, I like to go to data and filter. And now if I look at all the ones in this column, they should all be yeses, and they are. If I look at the zeros in this column, they should all be no's, and they are. So let's clear that. Now we want to do the same for children. So again, it's an if statement, so equals if. You can also follow along up here in the formula bar. So equals if, parentheses, H2, and that will show you visually that this is the box you're talking about, equals, quotation marks, yes, comma 1, comma 0. So if H2 is yes, let's change it to 1. If it's no, let's change it to 0. And now we can carry that formula all the way down, and we'll check this one too. So if we have a 1, everything in this column, column H, should be yes, and it is. If we have a 0, everything in column H should be no, and it is. Okay, now we can run the same descriptive statistics for these two now that we have these in numerical format. So let's do that real quick. We'll go to data, data analysis, descriptive statistics. We're going to change this to column K. And again, your buttons should still be pushed: labels, new worksheet, summary, and confidence. And here we go. So that's it for broadband. Now let's do the same for children. So data, data analysis, descriptive statistics. We'll change the input range to column L. And these 4 boxes, labels, new worksheet, summary, and confidence, should still be checked. And there you have it. Now, if you're curious and you want to know how many in each of these said yes and how many said no, there's a couple of ways to do it. So if I want to see how many said yes for broadband, I could come down here in the bottom corner and see 256 people of 410 said yes. I could also go up here, click 0, and see that 154 said no out of 410. So we'll clear that. Let's do it instead in a pivot table. I think that turns out nicer, a little bit neater for us. So do an insert pivot table. Select the range, new worksheet. Those 2 boxes should be checked. Hit OK. So we want to look at broadband, and we want to change this to count. Doesn't make much sense if we're saying sum with yeses and nos. So let's look at count. All right, so the no box had 154, and the yes ones had 256. Now I can simply add children to this too by clicking that button. So then we have 79 do not have children, and 140 do have children. Now, notice down here that it's sum and count. So we want to make sure both of these say count. So change that to count, and this will change that number right here. That makes more sense. So 154 and 256 for both. Let's take a look over here and see if that's the case. Could be. First thing we'll check is if F2. So this tells us, okay, we're looking at it right here. And this tells us, okay, we're looking at column H. So yes, that's the case. And if we check the numbers manually, we have 256. And then if we clear that and we check the number of children, we have 219. So that comes back over here, and something over here is just not quite right. So this is why I like to double check everything to make sure, because things can get a little out of sorts pretty quickly with Excel. All right, so let's take a look then at children and do it separately. Now here you're still seeing 154 and 154 on the same, so it's like it's reading the same information. All right, so let's just get rid of broadband altogether. And that cleaned it up. So we just need to do our pivot tables separately. We have 191 and 219 for children. And then if we want to do another pivot table, let's just pop over here and say insert pivot table. Okay. This time we'll look at broadband. Make sure this changes to count. All right, so 154 and 256 versus 191 and 219. So this is looking much better than what we had the first time. So always do a gut check with your numbers and double check what you're doing. All right, well, in this video, you've seen descriptive statistics. You've learned how to put in a formula with an if statement and to do a pivot table. Have a fantastic day.